Okay. We acknowledge, appreciate the land in which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kma'ki First Nation, and we have occupied this territory since time immemorial. Call to order. Councillor Tweel. Your mic's on. Oh, okay. Call to order. Did you want to say something there, Councillor Ramsey?
Yes, I do.
Put your mic on.
Yes, I do, Your Worship. I'd like to take a few minutes to congratulate the PEI Goody Ottawa Islanders of the Senior Baseball League, who just won, they're Canadian champs. The team plays out of, it's in the New Brunswick Senior Baseball League. It plays out of Memorial Field here in Charlottetown. They won 3 Senior Baseball League titles, 2021, 2023, 2024. This past week, they're at the National Championship in Regina, Saskatchewan. Oh, sorry. They had a record of 6-1. They captured the gold medal by beating Quebec, score of 8-1. The team includes Doug Hines, head coach, J.P. Stevenson, pitching coach, third base coach, Chuck Grady, assistant coach, Mark Arsenal, assistant coach, Morgan Murphy, assistant coach, Owen and Isaac McGuigan are bat boys, and there's a fair amount of players that reside in Charlottetown. I don't want to sort of name them all, because I'll probably miss some, but there's some that have been around, and I think that's a big achievement for them. Now they're going to start the playoffs in September, and we'd like to give them all the recognition they have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ramsey. Well done. Okay. Declarations of conflict of interest. Councillor Tweel.
Item C.
C, tourism accommodation levy increase. Okay. And it's because a family member is part of the,
That's right. Part of the
STR?
industry- Part of the industry.
okay.
So,
Any others? Okay. Approval of agenda. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, second by Councillor Ramsey. All those in favor? Okay. Councillor Drawn, good to go? Is he on? Yeah, he is. Can you hear us, Councillor Drawn? Earth to Councillor Drawn. Okay, well. Okay, so our first presentation is with the company Maritime Electric, and I'm going to get Angus to introduce himself or both, and your team also. So do you wish to start? Okay.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jason Roberts, President and CEO of Maritime Electric.
Yep. Just 1 second. Councillor Tweel?
Yeah, I do have a question, and it's regarding the process. First of all, I want to welcome you two gentlemen here to City Hall. The question I have is, and I sent an email off to council about an hour ago, and it's regarding, potential application coming before the planning department, subsequently to planning board, and then to council to render a decision. So I'm just questioning the fact, if we entertain the proposal tonight, are we potentially compromising? I have to ask the question, I have to ask the question, are we compromising the integrity of the process? Are we compromising the impartiality, the independence, and are we predetermining the presentation and the request from senior management from Maritime Electric? That's my question, and it's not so much for you gentlemen, it's a question for our senior administration here at City Hall.
Yeah, but Councillor Tweel, great question. I'm going to ask Jason or Angus Orford to answer that question. But first of all, I forgot to mention, I want to welcome the members of QP 830 for being here this evening. Thank you for your presence. Jason, Angus?
Yes, so just a few comments, Councillor Tweel. It is not our intention this evening to seek approval or alignment from council with respect to this project and this application. At this stage, it's before the regulator, so there is a process for us to go through to seek approval from IRAC before we would consider or start to move forward with an application for permits to City Council. So at this stage, we're really here to speak to the application, what it's about. This is a presentation that we've been giving all over the island since shortly before Christmas. So it's not information that's specific or unique to the city of Charlottetown. It is meant for information and discussion broadly across the island.
So, Councillor Twill, I just want to, I'm bringing in our Director of Integrated Growth, who is a professional planner who oversees the Department of Planning, Development, and Heritage. I don't know if you want to make any comments, Deputy, as Chair of Planning? Or do you just want to go directly to him?
I can say that I did flag this, and I did ask questions just on how it is here versus going through planning and heritage. And it was explained to me that this was a presentation, and my only question was if it's only a presentation for information purposes, and that's great. That's probably where it should be, is here. But if it's a letter of recommendation that is required, that's where I would seek some clarity on whether or not that does put a prejudice on us on going forward or not. Thanks.
So can I ask our Director for Planning Process?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess to answer your question, first I would recommend that council seeks a legal opinion on that if you want. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't offer a legal opinion on that question, but I would say generally when it comes to specific planning applications, when council is going to be considering a planning application, that council shouldn't be, I guess, offering an opinion on that application prior to the time that you intend to make a decision. So, for example, when we go through a rezoning process, council typically would not be offering an opinion on the rezoning prior to the final decision.
So just to clarify, Mr. Orford, Jason, this is not about a planning application. It's just an overview of our electrical needs and the future demand on our electrical grid.
That's correct. That's our understanding as well.
And much appreciate the question, Councillor Twill, so can you just wrap it up and then we'll follow up with what?
Yeah, sure.
Director
Okay, no, Angus, you're not coming back later with an application to go to planning department? Is that safe to say?
Well, I mean, if IRAC, if the regulator approves the application that we had before the commission,
Yeah,
it is our application to install this generation in Charlottetown at our Charlottetown plant site. So there would have to be a process to go to planning committee, get the necessary permits to construct. So we can't proceed once we get IRAC approval with the project unless we have, approval from the city to proceed.
Right. And I want to make it clear, this will go back to our professional planners that will look at the application and make a recommendation to our planning board. And if it has to go to a public meeting, which I don't know if it will, then that will create another process. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, it's our understanding that we would follow the necessary procedures, applications, seek the permits, do the necessary consultations, whatever sessions are needed. We're quite prepared to do that, but we're still a ways away from being in a position to be able to do that. The first step certainly is approval from the commission, from IRAC, to proceed with the project. In the meantime, we have been doing these sessions, as I say, across the island to sort of advocate and speak to the need for it.
the reason why I raised the question, time to time, we're being reminded as council, not this particular issue, but other particular issues. I mean, we're being reminded we're not supposed to discuss these particular issues with the community, affected neighborhoods and communities. We're not supposed to take a position. We're supposed to be totally nonpartisan. Again, I'll reiterate, completely impartial, and not put ourselves in an uncompromising position. So I raised it. I'm just trying to do my due diligence, that's all. Again, I welcome you two gentlemen here tonight.
Yep.
And want to welcome 8:30.
Appreciate that, Councilor Twill.
Thank you.
Deputy?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to confirm, there's no seeking of a letter of recommendation then from mayor and council? This is just a information session, is that correct, Your Worship?
That will be part of the presentation, correct?
Yes, we're not seeking approvals today.
Just make it clear,
Yeah.
the CAO and senior management didn't meet with the Maritime Electric. This is our first time for this presentation, so I'm waiting to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I've been offering this presentation to basically whoever's going to listen to me, because I feel the need very strongly that this needs to happen, and you know, I made the offer to His Worship to do the presentation again solely on the goal to inform and educate about what the application's about and the need for it.
Okay, can we continue with the introductions? Jason, do you want to keep going?
Yeah, certainly. As I mentioned, Jason Roberts, President and CEO of Maritime Electric. I'm here with my colleague, Angus Orford. Angus is Vice President, Corporate Planning and Energy Supply. As I mentioned, our goal today is to provide you with an overview of the energy transition and the impact that it's having on electricity demand here on the island and also within Atlantic Canada, because this is not only a Prince Edward Island challenge. So there is some information there on Maritime Electric. I won't go through it, but certainly if you do look at our application, you'll see us talking about the need for combustion turbine generators here on the island. Specifically, we plan to put them here in Charlottetown at our Charlottetown plant site, and we'll talk about a topic we call security of supply, and Angus will get into more detail on that throughout the presentation. But what I will say is, you know, what's driving this is really what's been happening in recent years. And in recent years, federal and provincial government policies have been driving a transition toward electrification. And islanders, I will say, have been adopting electrification at a very rapid pace. And in fact, Prince Edward Island's been leading the way in a lot of ways. So the effects of electrification and also population growth. You know, our island population has grown significantly in the last number of years. That's driving island electricity demand, peak demand. It's very evident now. Another factor that's contributing to the increase in our load growth and demand for electricity is, I don't want to say extreme weather events. I'm going to say significant weather events, because it doesn't take an extreme weather event anymore to show the impact on the demand for electricity. But you know, as an example, you know, this past summer, recently we had this stretch of warm weather. We've seen about a 14.4% increase in demand for electricity on our system over last year, which is significant. And keep in mind, you know, we are a winter peaking system, so to see that kind of load growth on the summer load, it is cause for concern, and it drives home the need for this generation on the system. So certainly, you know, electrification, population growth, and weather is driving demand for electricity. And as I said, this is not unique to Prince Edward Island. This is something that we're seeing across the Maritimes, across Canada, and really it's really across North America. There's a huge demand for electricity, where there's data centers or population growth or electrification in general. It's really driving demand across the system. So, you know, as we plan for the future, and this is a lot of what we do. I mean, we spend a lot of time thinking about 5, 10, 20, 40 years down the road. We know that changing conditions do require proactive system upgrades, like adding new substations across the island, which you've seen around the Charlottetown area in the last number of years, and also adding other key infrastructure like backup generation. It's critical to be able to meet the needs of our customers. So that being said, you know, it's important, and we want to make sure that we are striking the right balance between electricity costs and providing a safe, reliable, and a resilient system. Those are things that we think about a lot, and we try and balance each and every day. So I'm going to ask Angus to take on the presentation here now. I'm going to hand it over to him, and he's going to talk a little more detail about what's driving the low growth and the solution that we have right now before the commission.
Thanks very much, Jason. Your worship, councillors, management, CUPE, thank you for the opportunity to provide information on what's been going on. I just want to go back a couple of slides here. Exactly what we are looking for in this application in front of the regulator. If you look at the top picture there, you see a combustion turbine, and that's down at our Charlottetown plant. That's a combustion turbine is a jet engine. It's we're looking to install 2 more of these on the Charlottetown plant site, brownfield site that where we had our heavy fuel oil Charlottetown steam plant that we have torn down. That generator that we have in the parking lot is the newest dispatchable generator that's been put in the Maritime provinces, and that was installed in 2005. So there hasn't been a lot of dispatchable generation being installed in the Maritime provinces. There's been lots of wind farms and some solar farms and that, but what this is dispatchable generation. You push a button, you can start a generator, and you can produce electricity. Quick overview, I'll talk about our supply mix, what's going on, our regional capacity issues, what we need on Prince Edward Island, and what our plans are. This is our existing energy supply mix on PEI, and the point to take away from this is our actual energy supply is very clean. 82% of the electricity that we produce is non-emitting. And that's achieved because we buy all the wind from the PEI Energy Corp's wind farms. We're legislated to buy all that wind, and that's about 15% of our energy supply. On top of that, we have a 5%, 4.8% entitlement in the Point Lepreau nuclear generating station, so it's non-emitting. Then we contract energy from New Brunswick Power. Overall, New Brunswick Power has a pretty clean system. They have 1 coal-fired plant, but they have a large hydroelectric facility in Mactaquac, and about 35% of their own supply is from Point Lepreau. They also have enormous interconnections, 1,000 megawatts intertie with Hydro-Quebec. So they're importing hydroelectricity from Quebec. So when we contract with New Brunswick Power, we say, give us the same mix of energy that you supply your own customers so that we're getting also the same amount of carbon in that type of electricity. 82% being non-emitting is something to be very, very proud of. That's what the average is in Canada. And the reason it's so high in Canada is because in Canada, we have some of the largest hydroelectric facilities in the world. We have Hydro-Quebec, Manitoba Hydro, BC Hydro, and about 30% of Ontario is hydroelectric. The other point to draw out for this, if you can look at the tiny little sliver of combustion turbines and the amount that it is used for our energy supply, it's only 0.1%. And that's because combustion turbines produce expensive electricity. And you don't want to run them all the time, but they're very, very, very important for capacity. And that means that you turn them on when you have enormous demand on your power system.
Can you speak to the carbon footprint there for a second?
What's that? Okay.
Carbon footprint of diesel.
Oh, so if you look at the supply mix that we have, what's the average that you want to?
Yeah, so just to keep in mind, you know, when some of the coverage and discussion in the public to date with respect to our generation here on the island being diesel fueled, and our proposal to add 2 more units, there comes a question around the carbon footprint. And as Angus said, you know, our overall supply mix is 82% carbon free, which is very good. And when you think about the combustion turbines that we have, so there's a unit here in Charlottetown and 2 in Borden Carleton. Those units don't run very much. They run in emergency situations when we can't get supply anywhere else, and we're extremely happy to have them because we're able to keep the lights on. What's important to remember is, you know, our existing combustion turbines contribute 0.2% of Prince Edward Island's carbon emissions. So extremely small carbon footprint because they don't run very often. even with these 2 new units that we propose to add, our carbon footprint is still less than 0.5%. It's still very small. So, when people naturally go to, diesel generation, oh my God, the impact on the environment is going to be significant. I want to assure you that, in our projections and our planning, it's not a significant impact on the environment. They are critical backup supplies.
And this is all can be backed up mathematically because the province does record how much diesel fuel is consumed on Prince Edward Island through farming or trucking and that sort of thing. So it relatively speaking, ours is a very small portion of that. As everyone's aware, we tore down the heavy fuel oil plant that burned Bunker C. That supplied Prince Edward Island with electricity up until the interconnection. After we were interconnected in 1977, we still kept that plant because, again, we didn't run it all the time, but it had significant capacity value. And what that means is that we could turn it on when we needed it in emergencies, but it also plays an economic role when you go to negotiate energy supply contracts, because at least you're bringing something to the party. You've got capacity, and your supplier is in a position that if they need to, they can interrupt you. You may be generating on island with more expensive, but the way that the utilities work together, it's overall and overarching more economical for both parties. What's going on in the Maritimes? The federal government has legislated that all the coal-fired generation has to be decommissioned by 2030. If you look at that map, and this was one that I just got from the federal government document, because I know we're all aware where the Maritimes are, but you see the black dots on that map. Each of those black dots represent a coal-fired generating station. You got Point Coney and Lingan and Cape Breton, Trenton in Nova Scotia, just as you get off the ferry in Pictou. And then the black dot at the top of New Brunswick is Belledune. So the federal government has legislated the coal-fired generation has to be decommissioned within 4.5 years. The issue is 63% of the problem, coal-fired generation problem in Canada, you are looking at. So that represents 1,700 megawatts of baseload generation has to be removed because it's coal-fired generation. Belledune in northern New Brunswick, 650 megawatts, and then there's about 1,050 megawatts in Nova Scotia. That's 25% of the baseload generation in the Maritimes. And it has to be replaced. There's just a couple of graphs here that we show on our load growth and electricity sales. Usually utilities experience, 1.5% load growth each year. We have been responding to certainly government policies with respect to electrification of space heating. Traditionally on Prince Edward Island, everybody heated their homes with oil-fired systems, hydronic systems, and hot air systems. And there has been a move to install more heat pumps and move people off of oil. Well, the reality is tens of thousands of heat pumps have been added to the power system. In addition to that, we've had government policy on immigration. We need as many new Canadians as we can certainly get. But on a population of 145,000 people, we've added in relatively short order 40,000 new islanders. It has a direct effect on the load and the energy sales. The big spike that you see in 2023 was the polar vortex. This is just a reflection of our peak. We might be missing a slide there. Going to do technical? Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
So just while we're doing that, I want to go back to the capacity and energy distinction, because I think it's important. So if you think about, the electricity that gets delivered to your home or your business to, run your home, run your business, appliances, things like that. For us, there's two products that we need to source for you to get that energy delivered to your home. First is the energy itself, right? So we contract with New Brunswick Power, or we generate it, or we get it from the wind farms. The other is what we call is called capacity, and capacity is the ability or the right or the access to generation. So it's not enough for us to just go out and say we want to buy so many kilowatt hours on this particular hour. We need to make sure that we have access to the resources to get that energy. So that's what we call capacity. So in our case, we're talking about either buying capacity from New Brunswick, which is access to their system, or we have the capacity here on the island that's at our disposal and provides security here on the island. So I want to make sure we've got that distinction sort of clear. And certainly, if you're mulling it over through the presentation, you want us to go back to it, we'd certainly be happy to discuss it. But it's important to remember there's two pieces there. This is not an energy discussion. This is about the capacity and our ability to get the energy when we need to get it. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. So here's another graph that just shows the electricity usage since 2005 and the dramatic increase that we've experienced on Prince Edward Island. And that's predominantly space heating. As I say, historically, what we had is mostly the homes on Prince Edward Island being heated with oil. Just another graphic just to show the difference between capacity versus energy. You have wind turbines and solar panels on either end, and in the center you have three dispatchable generators. Well, a dispatchable generator is you push a button and you start an engine. Could be a reciprocating internal combustion engine, a Rice diesel, the same types of diesels that are in the big cruise ships that come in, or a combustion turbine. Well, you have the output of that engine. Like if it's 50 megawatts, you're going to get, every hour, you're going to get 50 megawatt hours of electricity out of it. Wind is dependent on whether the wind's blowing. And you can only assign a small amount of capacity for wind generators, and that's done statistically because if you have a number of different wind farms in different locations, then there's probabilistic that the wind's going to blow in one of the locations and you're going to have some capacity, but it's only a fraction. It's like 20%. So you take 100 megawatts of wind across PEI in different farms, you can only count 20 to 21% of that being as capacity. Solar, you can give zero capacity value. And the reason for that is we're a winter peaking utility, and our largest load is now in the coldest days in January, February at 6 o'clock in the evening or early in the morning before the sun comes up. So we can't count on those intermittent supplies of energy. That's all they are, is intermittent supplies of energy as capacity. What we also need is to either buy the capacity in the marketplace if it's available, or generate it ourselves. Here's another graph that puts a good perspective on. If you look at each of the supplies, up top, Point Lepreau supplies about 13 to 15% of our energy, but it also accounts for 9.5% of our capacity. We get 30 megawatts of capacity out of Point Lepreau. Most of the capacity that we're buying right now is from NB Power, and their supply is really dwindling. They're in the same boat. We're interested in putting in 2 of these units. They're in the process of putting in 10 of these units. Wind energy accounts for 13 to 15%, And as they say, statistically, you can allocate a certain amount of capacity to wind, but it's only a fraction of that. It accounts for 7.3% of our capacity needs. Solar, there's absolutely no value on our capacity needs, but at the very bottom, you see combustion turbines, they just produce a small amount of our energy. But when we push the buttons and we start those jet engines, we know we have the capacity to deliver that energy. And it's very important, in particularly through wintertime and meeting our winter peaks. Just very quickly, this is the curve that sort of explains our entire industry. When you look at that curve, it's called the load duration curve. That represents the hours in a year, 8,760 hours in a year. There's a few hours close to the y-axis each year that the load is extremely high. So that's where you're getting, the 380 megawatt loads. It might be on 2 or 3 different days, and you add up all those hours, and that's how you end up drawing that curve. The explanation of this curve is that there's different types of generators to add up all your generation mix. A base load generator is something like a nuclear power plant, a big hydroelectric dam. Those are things that you want running all the time for the 8,760 hours of the year. But if you look, the cost of those, and I just have the little dollar sign on the capacities, is really, really, really expensive. The nuclear power plant is in the billions of dollars. Or building a hydroelectric dam, if you have access to it, very, very expensive. What we are looking at is the cheapest supply for our capacity, and what we would be in these combustion turbines are what's called peaking units. And even though the price tag, is relatively expensive, it's still the least cost way of achieving our needs. Really what certainly highlighted, when we went through the polar vortex a couple of years back, it not only highlighted what we needed on Prince Edward Island, but it also highlighted on what's going on in the maritime provinces. And the important thing to take just away from this graph, that's the graph of the weekend of the polar vortex starting on Friday night, going to the end of Sunday, was the blue is when we ran our jet engines. And we started them on a Friday night, and we had them hot and producing. And the orange is the energy that we had to buy off of New Brunswick Power. And New Brunswick Power was also at their max. And the yellow is actually the wind generation on PEI. And the problem is that it was so cold that the heater in the nacelle up top in of the wind turbines couldn't keep them warm enough that the lubricating oil started to gum up. And through the Friday night, as it got colder and colder, you could just see the wind turbines dropping off. And that highlights the need of, well, if you have that supply gone, you also need dispatchable generation to make up the gap. We also had an experience in the spring of 2024 where we, on the mainland, on the MB Power System, they had lost a couple of transmission lines due to some icing, and it tripped out our submarine cables, 3 of our submarine cables, and we had to run our generation. And if we didn't have that 90 megawatts generation, we would have had interruptions. And then just over the last winter, you look at the peaks that we've been experiencing, and what this graph is telling us is that we don't need a polar vortex anymore, and the stress that it's putting on the power system. What it's showing us is that, when the polar vortex, it was at like minus 24, minus 25. Now we're hitting the same types of loads at minus 15. So you've had more heat pumps on the system, loading up the system, and now our system is getting loaded to a point that just on a cold winter day, may have challenges. This is just a graph on our projected load growth, and you can see a shortfall, and that's why it's imperative that we get on-island generation established. This was just one on the different areas where we make investments in the power system. Overall, the reliability on the system is doing very well. We do a measurement that's an industry standard, and it shows that we're making the investments in the right areas. The immediate reaction over the last few years was to get more electrical substations established across PEI. I tell the story, the first 15 years of my career, we built one substation. In the last 6 years, we've added, or 9 years, we've added 6 substations. And that's to get the high voltage, from the high voltage transmission system, the energy, step it down into the distribution system. So we had assistance, we knew we had to get some more capacity in the system, and we engaged Sargent Lundy. It's an internationally recognized engineering firm that focuses on electric utilities. And the initial report they gave us said, yeah, you should get 85 megawatts installed as soon as you can. But then we experienced the polar vortex as that first report came out, and we got them to revisit everything that we experienced during the polar vortex, also regionally. Because if there's this mindset that you can rely on your neighbor, well, your neighbor's just as short as we are. And that's where, in that report, had identified the 150 megawatts. So the vital importance of dispatchable on-island generating capacity is, first and foremost, it's a security of supply issue, that we always have to have the capacity to be able to meet the demand. It also puts you in a position when you're bargaining for energy supply from a third party that you have capacity. You're bringing something to be able to enhance your position, because essentially you're a price taker. But if you have a capacity, it's capacity, then you also don't have to buy from that supplier. And the more of this that we do have on the island, the more it does help backstop renewables as renewables get developed. So the immediate solutions that we're looking for is to work with NB Power and seek 2 50-megawatt combustion turbines. Essentially, that's the picture of our existing combustion turbine at the Charlottetown plant, and establish 2 more of those right next to it. And we have the transmission capacity to be able to then support not only the city of Charlottetown, but east and west on Prince Edward Island, and also entertain looking at a 10-megawatt battery, and we'd continue to pursue that other 40 to 50 megawatts that we had in our original application. In the bigger picture, this is only a part of the solution. As we look at the load growth and the continued load growth, we recognize that if you see the cables, the sort of the squiggly cables, were the cables that they're owned by the province of Prince Edward Island, but we project managed the installation of those cables in 2017, and they have a capacity of 180 megawatts each. But the 2 original cables that go straight across, they're at the end, getting very close to the end of their engineering life, and those will have to be replaced. And that's something that we'd be working with the province. That would be an investment. What the province of PEI does is they approach the federal government. The federal government in 1977 and in 2016 made a 50% contribution towards, just a grant towards the capital cost. The province debt financed the remaining 50%, and they charge, through us, all ratepayers on PEI. So I thank you for your time. That is the essence of what we're trying to achieve. It's sitting in front of the regulator at this point. Upon getting regulatory approval. There'll also be, a process from environmental applications and satisfying that, and then the process of approaching the city. Thank you.
Any questions? Councilor Bernard.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. I'm just curious, so what do the substations do? I know basically the presentation is that the lack of power and we need to have more capacity or energy supply. But you were saying when you first started, there was one substation and now the last year there was 6. So what does the substation do?
So what the substations do, when we import the electricity at 138,000 volts, that's what it comes on the transmission lines in New Brunswick, comes across the submarine cables, and then it comes into our 138 kV substations. And from our 138 kV substations, it's stepped down to 69,000 volts. And the substations that we've been building, we're connecting from the 69,000 volts and from the 138,000 volts into the distribution system. And the distribution systems are the power lines that run in front of your home.
Right, yeah.
And what we needed to do is put more of these in, because the lengths of lines on the distribution system were too long. And so we had to add more step down along the
Longer it goes,
transmission
it
system to
reduces,
feed into
yeah.
the distribution systems. Yep.
Right on.
So just the other way of looking at it, it's more efficient to transmit at the higher voltages. So we try and get as far as we can at the higher voltages and then step it down along the way. And the more we can shorten those lines, the more reliable the system is. So as we see more load growth, we try and transmit as much as we can at the higher voltage and then break it up at the substation and send it to your homes.
Okay. So that's what blows out the canisters. You hear about the canisters on the power pole, transformers. You hear
Yes.
them blowing out. So that's the draw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the transformers on the pole take it from the distribution voltage down to the 120, 240 that goes into your home.
Right.
So you could see a transformer overloaded. We try and build a system so that a fuse will go before. It's like the breaker panel in your house. We want to see the breaker trip before
Yes,
we actually
yeah.
blow up your panel,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. So basically, what it comes down to is the population growth and the amount of power we need to keep up with it, and plus the climate change.
Yeah. So there's really two things happening in the opposite direction. One is, as you say, is the low growth driven by population and electrification. The other is the shrinking supply in the region with the closure of coal and low growth in the other areas. So more demand and shrinking supply. So those two are kind of working in opposite directions in basically the wrong way.
So these 2 units that you want to build, the combustion turbines, how much capacity will that add?
100 megawatts.
100 megawatts, yeah. 250s.
Yeah.
Which will last how long? With projected growth, before you'll need,
So those 250s are not enough. That's the first step. So our original application in December was for 150 megawatts in total, so we still need to do another 50. And, what I will say is when we filed that application in December of last year, what we've seen since then, right, we've seen additional load growth, we've seen electrification programs like the oil to heat pump program that was announced.
Yeah.
So that was announced after we had done those studies saying we needed 150 megawatts. So, when you layer on that additional demand and low growth, I would suggest to you that 150 megawatts is probably still not enough.
so are you redoing your application to apply for more?
So we filed an amendment about 10 days ago to deal specifically with these 250 megawatt units to try and get expedited approval for those 2 combustion turbines. But the other 50 megawatts remains to be determined. Yeah.
Okay. Councilor McIntyre?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen. Great context. Just curious on the money piece, because I'm sure this is, a substantial capital investment. If you get regulatory approval, then it goes on. I realize the province is involved. Do you guys become part of part of the ask for the, for the funding piece? Like, what does that potentially look like, assuming you get regulatory approval, and how do you see that
Yes,
ask coming?
Yeah, great question. The price tag associated with these two units is $324 million, okay? So what I will say, though, is that is the least cost answer. I hate to say it, but that's the reality of what we're looking at. So there's two other choices here if you don't do this project. One is we see if we can buy it from New Brunswick. And there's two things on that. First is a question of whether it's going to be available. And the signals that we've seen is it's going to be challenging to see if it's available. There's limitations in being able to get the electricity, the capacity from New Brunswick on the transmission side in New Brunswick. So the cables are fine. The cables can handle all that capacity. It's the transmission system from a station in Memramcook to the cables that's the challenge. So that's one alternative, is to see, basically roll the dice and hope for the best. And that's not the world that we operate in. We have obligations, we have responsibilities to customers, so we want to fulfill those obligations. The other is the outcome that we definitely don't want to see, and that's not being able to supply. And if we talk about having a capacity deficit that Angus showed on that schedule, that slide, that's a risk, right? That's a risk of not being able to meet the supply for all of our customers across the island. And, this project, if it gets to go ahead and we can execute on it, it can be in service by 2028, which means we have a window from 2025 to 2028 where we could have challenges. That's the reality that we face today.
Okay. Councillor Beck, and then we'll come back to you, Councillor McAvoy.
Yeah, this is very informative. So the two new stations down next to the existing one are to be used in emergency situations only when the capacity is tapped out, correct?
No, on those circumstances, it gives you greater flexibility in your system. In the utility industry, we operate on what's called an N-1 basis. So what that means is we have to be able to be in a position that we can take the largest component of our system out and still keep the power on. So if we have to take a transmission line out of service, but we can bring on generation to backfeed from a other direction, we can still keep the power on. We have to be able to keep the power on, but we also have to be able to maintain the system. So there's the circumstances of if we get interrupted in supply from the mainland, we have to carry out work and do maintenance on our power system. And in events where the load grows to a point that we would just have to, for those shorter duration periods, dispatch, turn on the generators and generate them.
So I'll just add, the other thing that these units do is provide what's called voltage support. So as you move further away from your sources of generation, what you run into is drops in your voltage as you move away. So the units in Charlottetown, even the unit today, supports voltage in the eastern part of the city as well as eastern Prince Edward Island. So there's a real critical role there for voltage support moving forward as the load grows. So as there's more demand, we're sending more electricity across the system, the voltage drops off, so these units would provide that voltage support.
And are
function.
the two in Borden supplying the western, by the sort of the mid-isle and western side of the island? Is that how that works?
Yeah, it's a similar role, so they're able to respond depending on the level of generation we
Okay.
need. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems to me like, we're looking at the decommissioning of coal by 2030. We're looking at two cables that are coming near end of life in 2030. So we're running against the clock here.
We are.
And so it's, there's been a lot of, it's just another example of the increasing infrastructure challenges that we faced with the result of our population, which has gone up exponentially over the last, 6-7 years.
Yep.
So, we're now topped out at, you were mentioning 145, that was always the figure, now we're at 180. So our little island is being taxed in a lot of ways. So this was an interesting context to have. And the other part, are we going to have enough, like once that other stuff gets decommissioned, when the coal plants get decommissioned, that's going to put another additional stress on MB. They're going to be looking for sources elsewhere. They're going to be, there's still a limited supply, what did you say, Beldoon is 500 megawatts or something like that?
650.
650, right? So, man,
Yeah, so New Brunswick and Nova Scotia are going through a similar transition.
Right.
The difference between Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia and New Brunswick goes back to, I'll say, how progressive Prince Edward Island has been at adopting wind energy. Because we, the province, led that transition 20, 25 years ago. And what you see today is, a very rapid uptake of renewable energy resources in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia because they hadn't done that. They continued to rely on
Right.
heavy oil and coal,
Yeah.
whereas we made that transition earlier. So when we're talking about adding combustion turbines today, they're doing renewables and combustion turbines.
right,
So they're doing both at the same time.
gotcha.
Yeah.
The solar energy, is that, what it was like 0.8%, is that the energy that's generated from the solar farm in Summerside? Is that where that would come, or is there other sources that's coming from?
Yeah, so there's two pieces. There's net metering, which is the rooftop
Right.
solar
Okay.
systems, and then there is the Slemon Park solar farm that we buy the energy from that farm.
Right on, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it might be worth noting, just with this application, the desire is to get 2 more of these units, and, the desirable ideal location would be on our plant site. Upon the next units that we pursue, they best serve the power system if they're located probably further east. So in the Lorne Valley area, that sort of thing. And it's part of where the load is, and, we have a large load in the Charlottetown area, but we also have to achieve continued voltage support in other parts of the island. And you can operate these things. What you do is you start them, then you shut off the engine, but you let the generator still spin with the system, and it adds voltage support to the entire system. My point being is that we eventually get more units. It wouldn't be at the Charlottetown plant site. Like three units down there would serve the city, and then transmission wise, what we could get from capacity out of there.
I think what we'll find moving forward is a need for substations around the Charlottetown area. But that's further down the road.
Councilor McAleer.
Yeah, thank you. Just coming back to the, to your number, asked the financial piece, you mentioned 324 million. Just say that all played out and what you're recommending here is a potential solution. And so would that, who would end up funding that? You'd be assuming the feds, the province, yourselves would be at the table. Ultimately, there's going to funnel down to the ratepayer at some point. Like how does that look like in terms of the stakeholders and their contributions?
Yeah, so as it stands today, this is an application that Maritime Electric has put forward. So we call it our capital structure, so how we would finance a project. As it stands today, 40 cents of every dollar would come from Maritime Electric, and then we would seek financing outside, either from, the people that loan us money today, or, if the province indicates that, they want to participate somehow and provide financing, then we would certainly entertain that. I mean, this is about lowering the cost as much as we can. 324 million is a big number, right? And, but it's not like we can't, it's not like we can decide not to do it, right? We did get some initial pricing from New Brunswick Power as to what it would look like to buy that 100 megawatts of capacity from them over that next, the 40, 50 years that a turbine would last. And, by our calculations, it's about 50% cheaper to do it here on the island. along with all the other benefits that come from it, even though the price tag is so large. Right? And this, again, this is, like I say, this is not unique to Prince Edward Island. These are costs that everybody's facing in the region. Yeah. But certainly, if we could get financing for that 60 cents for every other dollar, that's 60 cents, and it's the least cost solution, that's what we're interested in. Right?
Councilor Bernard and Deputy Mayor Yanko.
Just a quick question. I'm just wondering, right now, we talked about you guys are looking to amend your application.
We have.
We have.
Yeah.
So each of these combustion turbines, you're saying 250 megawatts, and now you may go to 200. Is each turbine the maximum 50 megawatts?
Yes.
So if you want to go to 200, you have to get 4 of them built.
You'd have to have 4.
Yeah, so
the max is 50.
that's the size of the unit that this company, Pro Energy, produces. So they're basically refurbished jet engines that get attached to the generator. So they do them in groups of 2. And I think the minimum is 300 megawatts that they typically do. Now, they're willing to entertain 100 megawatts for us because we're going to leverage the New Brunswick Power project. But other than that, we probably wouldn't attract any attention from them.
Yeah, okay. And look to the future, how much room do you have to put these units in, the combustible turbines?
So there's lots of room down at the Charlottetown plant site with the old plant gone, so that we can get the 2 units in there. As Angus said, as we add the next phase of generation, that generation is probably going to be located outside the Charlottetown area. If you think about the Borden units right now, they're 1977 units, so they're getting a little bit long in the tooth, so they're going to need to be replaced at some point. So that could be a site. And as Angus mentioned, the voltage support that we need on the eastern part of the island could warrant generation down there. The challenge that you run into when you move outside the Charlottetown area is, as it stands today, we've got all the fueling infrastructure in place. Right, we would need to add another tank, but we've got that delivery system in place, so there's a lot of savings there to have that's already sort of there in the system. Once you move outside, then you've got to add that infrastructure around the generation, so it is a bit of a challenge.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, folks, for your presentation. You mentioned, I think you said that if you're able to put these units in, you could have a potential savings in terms of getting your electricity from New Brunswick. Did you say 50%? You say it would be a 50%?
Relative to the cost of buying the equivalent amount of capacity from New Brunswick, the indications are that it's about 50% cheaper. Yeah.
That's great. And so my next question would be, would that 50% be, would that benefit be put onto PE Islanders that are paying their monthly bill?
So you receive that benefit by the cost being only, and I'll say only, $324 million. So the $324 million for these 2 turbines is the least cost solution, so there's no more incremental cost to go with it, right?
It warrants our obligation in front of the regulator under the Electric Power Act is to bring forward solutions, but they have to be the least cost solutions, and we have to be able to defend that. The price tag is big, but it's like getting a mortgage. You're paying for it over the life of the unit, which 45, 50 years. I mean, the units in Borden are approaching that. When we look on the financing side, the way that the investor-owned utility, it's 40% equity and then 60% we long-term finance with insurance companies, that sort of thing. And as Jason mentioned, if the province was interested in playing a role, on the debt financing side. But our obligation is to provide the least cost solution.
The other thing I'll add is that there's a potential. So Angus mentioned in his presentation that by having these units here on the island, that 100 megawatts of capacity, that gives us the ability to say to New Brunswick Power, we want to buy from you a cheaper electricity product called interruptible energy. Interruptible being they can phone us and say, we're going to cut you off in 10 minutes. And we know we have that 100 megawatts of generation to backstop it. So that potentially means we can negotiate a contract to say we want the equivalent of 100 megawatts of capacity on an interruptible basis. But that contract remains to be negotiated in a few years.
Okay, I do want to thank both you and Angus, you and Jason, and I see Kim's here representing the PR department of the Maritime Electric and your legal counsel. But we have talked about the population increase, and StatsCan shows a 13% increase on island population from 2020 to 2024. And, you know, this whole push, we've heard it, heat pumps. Lori and I got a heat pump. Geothermal, we put in geothermal out at our new net zero building on Brackley Point Road. You look at electric vehicles, e-bikes, our transition from diesel to electric buses. You know, the push is going on, so we need a backup, as you said. And that transition from oil to renewable energy is a process. It's not like turning on a light switch and turning on a light switch or turning that light switch off. So I know back in 2021, Maritime Electric did approach us about an application for a $38 million solar panel farm that was going down east, I think Dingwell Mills, up west to Mount Pleasant. Application didn't go through, but if you're looking at doing that again, I know that that would be definitely part of our climate action plan, because that would add to our call for, you know, reducing our carbon footprint. And Angus, when you talk about backup power in our climate action plan, under section 8.2, it says actions continue to install and support installation of backup power to critical infrastructure and buildings used as emergency reception centers or shelters, with a priority for zero-emission sources where possible. And that applies to our water and wastewater. We need backup power for our lift stations, so we need it. You need it as an electrical plant or power plant. So I think we're both on the same page, but that transition is very much very important to our process. But I know you're not jet fuel and you're not jet propulsion engineers. But with jet engines,
Yeah.
is it possible to convert those systems to hydrogen or LNG?
Yeah, so these are what's referred to as dual fuel units. So they have the capability, just like the one here in Charlottetown today. It has the capability of burning natural gas or diesel, depending on the fuel source
And
that's
hydrogen?
available. It can take if you're burning natural gas, it can have a blend of hydrogen. So it is what we call fuel flexible. But as it stands today, you know, we don't have natural gas on the island, and we don't have the delivery system for natural gas. So it would have to start initially on diesel, but it does have that ability. Yeah.
Well, thank you, that's good to know.
The units, the identical units that would be going in Center Village in New Brunswick are at a location where transmission lines cross the natural gas pipeline that runs through New Brunswick and Nova Scotia for that very purpose, that they could be able to fire the units on number 2 diesel fuel or natural gas, and arbitrage depending on the economics.
Well, Councillor Bernard and Councillor Twill and myself were on council when we installed the first combustion turbine back in 2005, and I think at that time it was at $19 million. Here we are 20 years later, and you're up to over $300 million.
Yep, the total cost was either 34 or 36 million with all the other infrastructure. And it's just it's a reflection of market conditions. You know, they've increased fivefold in the cost of the units since that time, and twofold since, you know, 2019.
Okay. Councillor Twill?
Yeah, I certainly remember 2005. You moved the resolution.
Yeah, I was chair of plan at the time.
That's right. You moved the resolution.
Yeah.
To relocate the the infrastructure from West Royalty down in the eastern part of the city.
No, there was no relocation of West
Well,
Royalty.
what was the,
We installed a new unit, the new generation.
It's a new turbine that was
We
installed.
installed
in-
the existing unit that's there.
and it left West Royalty, correct?
No,
No,
West
no?
Royalty is
It
a
was-
substation.
That's a
Okay,
substation. That's
okay.
not a power station.
So that leads me into my question. Again, I want to thank you for your presentation. It's very in-depth, very comprehensive. In terms of, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but in terms of brownfield development and revitalization, gentlemen, has there, and I know you want to be right in Charlottetown, has there been any other options that could be or may be explored to have, the necessary infrastructure, for now, for the next 45, 50 years, outside of the downtown core? And, if you look at other cities across Canada, a lot of them have used these particular opportunities. There's funding with the feds in terms of brownfield development. And again, in terms of revitalization, so that, this particular property, if the possibility ever arose, could be used for other amenities here in the city. I just asked that question because it's not unlike anything else that's taken place in other cities, whether it be Canada or the United States. And it's a philosophical thing. I just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think it's fair to say, generation of this sort is happening all around us,
Yeah.
all across North America as it stands. In our view, that site is the ideal site because the infrastructure's there and it's closest to the load. So, I look at it and say, well, if you want the population and the services, the electricity is a key factor in those services. So it's hard to move your source of electricity away from where you want your services provided. So it's a challenge, right? That unit that we have there as it exists today would be extremely expensive to move off that site. And we would have to ask ourselves the question: would it be fair to all island customers to pay for that sort of development? So it would be a challenge. As it stands today, it would be our goal, and it is our intention to put the two units there alongside the existing unit.
Follow up, Councillor Twill, go ahead.
I ask that question because, cities all over North America are attempting to reinvent themselves, to revitalize, and brownfield development is something that the federal government, is into partnering and funding. I just asked the question.
I certainly appreciate that. Yeah.
I just asked the question because it does happen in other centers, and I'm always interested because, this city is looking to, develop to its full potential. And I just think it's a question that, you always ask from time to time. I mean, a lot of investments taking place in our downtown. Just look down Queen Street today. Major development taking place in downtown Charlottetown and right down Kent Street. A lot of good things are happening, and just looking to build on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say our goal is to support that growth and development of Charlottetown, and I think, we're able to, I think we'd be able to work in partnership with the city, with those units and that infrastructure on that site, and, have it in a way that's not, I'll say, offensive to look at. I mean, from our perspective, that stuff is pretty nice looking stuff, but not everybody appreciates that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, I think having it near, as I say, having it near where your development is happening is certainly a selling point in terms of reliability for your citizens of the city, and we would certainly look to be able to continue to do that and have that relationship.
Yeah, and Jason, tearing down those two stacks has changed the landscape down
It certainly
there.
has, yeah. Yeah.
And you need electric power for investments, so if BioVector or a data center or AI technology is moving in, you need power. If you don't have power,
Yeah.
you don't have investment.
I mean, what I will add, when we did the demolition of that site, that was a big undertaking, right? That took us a year, close to 2 years, right, to get done. And we spent a lot of time consulting the residents around the area. We worked very closely with them. We had a lot of noise monitoring, dust management. Like, we took the time and the care to hear the residents' concerns and to mitigate them. And, I think by and large, I'm not aware of any negative feedback. I think generally it's been positive feedback that, they're able to cut their grass now because there's actually light on their lawns, because before the old building used to shadow them, right? So, we're quite willing as we move forward to continue that relationship with the residents, certainly around the surrounding area, to make it work.
So you will follow up with our CAO on what you're asking, and hopefully we cross the Ts, dot the Is, but.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the goal today was to provide the information and have the discussion. Next steps for us are to pursue hopefully a very, very expeditious approval from the regulator, and then that would sort of trigger the full-scale planning and permitting process that we would make the applications for and work with the CAO and staff to execute on. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I did want to add just a couple of comments, Your Worship, with respect to your earlier comments. And that's first, I guess, you're right, the population growth has, and our policies around electrification and carbon reduction has had an impact. The struggle that we've had as an industry is the pace of change, right? We're fully supportive of the decarbonization and the energy transition that's happening. It's just the pace that we have concern with and being able to keep up. And that's what's triggered this application and this presentation today, is we're trying to keep up with that growth. And to your point about, the 2021 solar application, we haven't given up on it. We've taken a little bit of a different strategy this time around. We've made the application for the 2 wind farms, 2 solar farms. And that's before the regulator. What I will say is, if we can get the approvals, it is contingent on some very key partners coming on board, and we just haven't gotten to finalizing those key partners yet. So we haven't given up on the idea of having other parties participate in this project, because I think it's key for it to happen. So I'll say stay tuned if we can get some traction on it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have more regional sharing of power, like Muskrat Falls, Churchill Falls, Quebec. Need that regionalization.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we need east-west, right? Not north-south. That's the reality of it. There's a lot of energy and resources available in Canada. We just need to get along and make this happen. I think we can do it.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next item is B, 4B, 1 Protective Emergency Services Resolution. Do you want to read that first, CAO? Thanks again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Your Worship, Protective and Emergency Services McCabe and seconded by Councillor Kevin Ramsey, that the request to enter into a development/encroachment agreement for an outdoor patio located in 3 perpendicular parking spaces in front of Lone Oak Beer Corner at 156 Great George Street, PID number 344382, be approved to the end of the 2026 season, subject to annual permit application and fees, and that the Mayor and the CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Councilor Bernard.
I assume this is the patio that's there now that was there for Upstreet? This is the same one?
Is that correct? Just one second, Councilor McCabe.
That is correct. So it's just a transfer. Since the ownership of the business changed, they're just looking to transfer the patio.
Thank you.
Questions called. All those in favor? Councilor Drawn, yea or nay? Can't hear him. 9-0. What?
He's on, but I'm not sure if there's an issue with the technical.
Okay. Okay. Go with the next resolution. Councilor.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you in favor?
Yay.
Yay. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Your Worship, Economic and Tourism and Cultural Development Resolution moved by Councillor
Yes,
Terry
please.
Bernard and
He's just saying yes to you.
seconded by Councillor Kevin Ramsey. Let it be resolved, the council agree to increase the tourism accommodation levy from 3% to 4% effective January 1st, 2026. And that the mayor and the CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Councillor Bernard.
So just so everybody knows, Your Worship, this was requested from the Hotel Association PEI in partnership with Discovery Charlottetown, Meetings PEI, the Charlottetown Special Events Reserve, SURF, to increase this from 3% to 4%. It's not taxpayer money, so this was an agreement that they had within their association to increase it. It goes towards the SURF fund, which, as everybody knows, gets us a lot of events coming to the city of Charlottetown. So it was an ask from that association. Thank you.
Okay. Let the minutes reflect, Councillor. Conflict of interest. Yeah. Questions called. All those in favour? Councillor Drawn, yea or nay? Can you hear me, Councillor Drawn?
In favor?
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Twill, just want to call him back in? Yeah.
In favor.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Councillor Duran, on this next one, tender award 2025 sidewalks, are you in conflict? Just one sec. He is, I think, well, Landmark did. Can you hear me, Councillor Twill? Councillor, geez, I got Councillor Twill in the mind. Jeez. Councillor Cron? Are you? Can you send him a text?
I'm in favor, sorry about it.
Okay, no, but for the next one, 4D, there's a tender award 2025 sidewalk.
Yes, sir, I'm in favor. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, but are you in conflict? Can someone just? No, we can't. He has to log out. Councillor Drawn, you have to log out. Okay. I have to take that he's gone. Want to read the resolution there? CIO?
Your Worship, the first resolution for the Public Works Committee moved by Councillor Mitchell Tweel, seconded by Councillor John McAleer. Let it be resolved that as per conditions of the public tender for 2025 sidewalks, the submission of landmark construction in the amount of $1,398,192.50 plus applicable taxes be accepted, and that the mayor and the CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Okay. Questions called? Oh, you got a question there? Thank you, Councillor Beck. Come right up there. Just stand up there, please. Thank you.
Just one comment on the technological piece. Is there a possibility that we could be looking at a different mechanism to be used? We've had repeated incidents where people have had trouble logging on. I know I've experienced it myself. Just wondering if that could be looked at. You know, if there's something in Teams or if there's a video conferencing available or something like that, some other way that we can use it that is a little bit more reliable. I think it's frustrating for Councillor Duran to be sitting there at the other end with, can't ring in, and I know I've experienced it myself. I'm sure other people have figured it out as well too. So maybe if we could, I don't know if that falls under strategic priorities, but if we could look into that at some point in time, that'd be appreciated. Maybe you can get back and report as to if there's other options available that we could be using. I do have a couple of questions about this. So these are for Parkside, oh, they're all listed there. Are we, I guess I have two questions. The first one is, just in a general approach, are we moving away from sidewalks into more of active transportation paths? Or, excuse me, or are we going to be maintaining our sidewalk approach? I thought that there might have been some discussion about moving, instead of going with sidewalks, we would be moving into active transportation paths. And the second one is on there was a notice that there's a public tender posted for a second sidewalk construction. Is that the one that is through ISIP funding, or is that through our capital budget process? Because I know we've had discussions about that before, and so if those two questions could be answered, one on the approach with sidewalks and the other one on the funding for the second sidewalk package that's out there.
Okay. Councillor Twill?
Take a shot at it. Yes, we are certainly looking to move towards active transportation pathways. I think if you look at Alena Court, North River Road, the cul-de-sac, that's going to be a paved pathway. The other instances, they are sidewalks from a traditional sense. That was a recommendation that came from our staff in Public Works. These three particular projects and the type of infrastructure that is going to be constructed. Albert, I'm not sure. Maybe if there's something else you could add to that. But again, I'll reiterate, we're much more conscientious towards the paved pathways because it accommodates many more user groups. And it's much more, I would suggest, pedestrian friendly, particularly with people with disabilities. But I'll turn it over to our manager so that he can even give you more information from a technological perspective.
Albert?
Great. Thank you, Councillor Twill, through to the rest of the council. So as Councillor Twill mentioned, one of these three, Alena Court, is a multi-use paved pathway. Going forward, we kind of consider them case-by-case basis. There's certain areas where we're matching sidewalk to sidewalk, so we wouldn't want to transition that, and there's all kinds of other criteria where the multi-use paved pathways are usually a little bit wider, so we have right-of-way constraints, infrastructure constraints. I'm hoping that the active transportation plan, that environment and sustainability has been leading, that 10-year plan kind of gives us a little bit of guidance as well into certain areas where those multi-use paved pathways can work a little bit better than the sidewalks. So yeah, we're considering it case by case and seeing how they fit in certain areas. So.
Okay. Second question? Yep. Do you just want to stand up there and just give us a shot at it?
Yeah, just, the second one was on the funding of the Stockman Drive. There's a public tender posted for a second package. And my question is that through, we had a discussion here a little while ago about doing some sidewalk construction and tapping into the ISIP funding in order to do that. Is that package about, is that being funded through the ISIP funding?
Councillor Twill, or do you want to just defer to the engineer?
In terms of potential funding, I think all options are on the table. But again, as more specifically, our manager.
Albert?
Great, thank you, Councillor Tweel. Yes, so we are looking at other funding sources, kind of going back just a little bit on this, because I know there's been discussions, and a few months ago, we were looking at, requesting additional funding to be able to do all of the sidewalk work. And when I say that, I also mean the multi-use paved pathway of Alina Court. So we had split this up again, it being later in the season, into two packages. This package still fits into our budget, so when the second package that closes this Friday comes in, we will have to see kind of how much money we need for that, and see if we have options to go. I don't believe, I was speaking to the manager of finance, I don't think the ISIP funding kind of fits within kind of this criteria, but there is some other gas tax funding that could potentially be there. So we'll have to see kind of what the bids come in at, and where we stand with what funding we have in our capital projects that are going to be able to be done this year, and then see kind of where we have the shortfall and where we'll have to take additional funding from to be able to award that sidewalk work as well, if council sees fit.
Canadian Communities Building Fund. Yeah, okay. Yeah, when we pass the procedural bylaw, you'll be able to go 3.
I haven't had a chance.
Well,
I'm
no,
not
yes.
3. I've
you're
only
two-
spoken.
you're-
I asked my 2 questions first.
Yeah.
You asked me to repeat the second question. That was the second time I spoke. I asked my questions first.
Go ahead.
And then Mitchell,
ahead.
or Councillor Tweel asked me what the question was. Yeah, so this next package will come back through, because I think we've had discussions here before about the funding because we were looking at, when we did our capital budget, we approved projects, and then there was a request to add some projects afterwards. And I know that it was brought forth that we were looking at potentially other projects that we could tap into that funding too. So I mentioned this, I think, at our last meeting, and I'd like to keep that on the forefront too. So I guess what I'm hearing today, and is we will get an answer back once that new package comes in. We'll make a determination as to where that potential funding will come from, and we'll look at it at that time.
Councillor Tweel?
Thank you.
Did you want to respond?
I think that's an accurate description. As our manager said, we will look at it on a case-by-case basis, and when we look at potential funding streams, and just work through the process. And in collaboration with the manager of the finance department.
Good, thank you.
Is that okay, Norm?
Yeah. Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, Councillor 9-0, Councillor Duran in conflict. Okay. Did you want to, just 1 second? Deputy Mayor, did you want to say?
Yeah,
something
I
here?
just wanted to follow up. Councillor Beck had a really good point in terms of the whole improvement on when people are calling in and IT stuff. But it was always my understanding that anytime that there were council meetings or committee meetings, an IT person would be here on staff. So perhaps they're somewhere in the building that they
another
could have
room.
sorted that stuff with him now.
It's an issue on Councillor Duran's end. I don't think it's technically
Yeah.
with that. So
I don't, and I don't know if that is because he hasn't been asked to check on it. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Okay. Next resolution is tender award, and Councillor Tron is not in conflict here, so do you want to read that resolution, CAO?
Yes, Your Worship, Public Works Committee Resolution Number 2, moved by Councillor Mitchell Tweel, seconded by Councillor John McAleer. Let it be resolved that as per the conditions of the public tender for Harts Hall building upgrades, Phase Number 2, interior fit-up, the submission of WM&M Limited, brackets 1993, in the amount of $988,464,000 plus all applicable taxes be accepted. And that the mayor and the CEO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just noticed in the report that this is double what we budgeted for in our capital budget, and that the money is being transferred from our municipal building pool of something that we clearly aren't doing. What is it that we're not doing that we can transfer from that to this? Does somebody know? Oh, Councillor Twill, sorry.
Councillor Twill?
In terms of this particular expenditure, if you look at phase one, it was close to 500,000. And now this particular phase, 988,000. I'm not sure, like I wasn't on Public Works when the budget was approved. So I'm not sure what's being deleted. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, that the Public Works Committee of the day or council envisioned this type of an expenditure. I thought the original intention wasn't, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, we did have this discussion at Public Works. The idea was to move the building over, new foundation, and now with some of the anticipated renovations that are going to take place, new elevator, a retrofit. I wasn't of the understanding that the city was going to be incurring this type of expenditure. So from that perspective, I don't know who can give us the breakdown because I wasn't on the committee at the time. So I don't think that answers your question. Maybe Albert, I mean, you weren't with us either when the budget was approved. So I don't know who can give us the 2020 on how this whole thing evolved. But that's the resolution that's before council. And Albert, do you want to take a shot at it?
Alberta, and then I can go to councillors. Go ahead, Alberta.
Thank you, Councillor Twill. So I'll address Councillor Yankoff's question first. So originally, so we had budgeted 500,000 for phase 2 of this project. As you can see, it did come in significantly over budget. In speaking with the finance manager and reviewing the documents, we don't anticipate that the full funding or the full 988 will be actualized based just on cash flow projections and the project being awarded at this stage. Also, there is an elevator with this project, so procurement times, as we've seen, and delivery times for that, we anticipate that the 500 we've budgeted this fiscal year is probably all that we will need for this fiscal year. But with that being said, we will need the full project awarded with the remainder to be used in next year's budget. So I know our manager of finance is here to give some clarification on that if need be. But that kind of maybe answers your question, Councillor Yankoff.
Councillor McCabe.
Thanks. I recall that this was the application. If you recall, Councillor Duran had brought it up. It had gone to tender without it ever coming through committee, and it caused a lot of chaos at that time. So this is the first time I'm seeing the application again since that time it was pulled from the Public Works. It was posted as a tender, never came through committee, there was never any discussion, and then it was removed, and now here we are again with it going. But my question is this a heritage building?
It is.
So how are we doing like windows and siding and doors, and it's never really come through our heritage committee for any kind of approval for this application, if it's a heritage building?
It's listed on the Canadian Registry. Again, Councillor Twill, do you want to answer that, or you want to defer it to the engineer?
I think that's a really good question. But, when it was brought up at the committee level about the historical significance of the building, I questioned the fact that, okay, it's a heritage building. So does that mean because it's a heritage building that the expenditure itself is endless in terms of how much we would spend I even made the suggestion, geez, if we're going to spend that kind of money on a facility, then, maybe we should be building a brand-new facility and where there's more square footage. Just a thought, but I mean, this is a pretty big expenditure, unbeknownst to me, and it was brought to committee for committee approval. The committee approved it in favor to come to city council for the resolution. We did have a thorough discussion regarding the what are the prerequisites when it comes to a heritage building. Was it vetted through the heritage the heritage department? Did it go through the heritage board? I can't answer that question because I don't know. I mean, this is all new to me, and here we are with a major expenditure. So that probably does not answer your question. Just telling you what I know.
Councillor Terry Bernard.
Thank you,
Ward
Your Worship.
10.
I'll give you a little history. So Hertz Hall was given to the city, went through amalgamation. It was up to the city to look after it. The city didn't, so it fell into disrepair. Once the St. Peter's Road project that the province put through that widened the road to 4 lanes, it left Hertz Hall right up against the sidewalk, so it had to be moved. So the project began by moving Hertz Hall away from the St. Peter's Highway, putting it on its own foundation. With that, Hertz Hall never had a basement before. Now that the foundation has a basement, so the idea was that once the Hertz Hall got moved, and it's been in such disrepair that it does need new windows, it does need a roof, it does need new doors. So that's been part of this project. From that now with a basement, there's a possibility of the group that was using it in the past was the Aventure Group, and there was only the upstairs. So now the Aventure Group can go back in it, but there's also office spaces that we can have downstairs. The province paid a significant, I wouldn't say significant, I guess. The province paid a portion of dollars to be able to move the building away from St. Peter's Road. Talking to the Aventure Group, they're prepared to pay up to close to $20,000 a year for rental. They've had it for free before, but we put significant dollars into the building. And there's the opportunity, I know we're always looking for some office space, and there's opportunities now to have some office spaces out there. So, and I agree with what the manager said. If you're looking to put an elevator in the building, that's not going to happen this year. And we know from Hillsborough Hall, it took almost a year to get that project from start to finish. So I think the money I think there's $500,000 in that particular budget. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that $500,000 would probably do for this year. So does it need windows? Yes. Does it need a roof? Yes. Does it need new siding? Yes. So it's going to need this stuff, so you can't let it fall into disrepair. So I'd be looking to move for acceptance to the resolution. We got to do it sometime.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Yankov and Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you. Just then, two questions, if I could maybe get them answered. See, Mike came in for the Heritage. At some point, is this project need to go through Heritage Board? Because it's a heritage property. And the other thing is, if I heard Albert correctly, and Councilor Bernard as well, that they don't anticipate spending double the cost that we budgeted only $500 for. And then Albert indicated that we probably won't need to do that budget transfer this year to things that I'm still not aware of that we would have to pull from the municipal list of what we were doing. And then it was indicated that we would use this money, that it would have to be budgeted next year. So then, if I'm hearing this correctly, council being asked to make a budget decision on next year's budget before we go through budget process? And the heritage question needs to be answered too. Thanks.
Can we deal with the heritage question first with Mr. Mike Russ?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just to address the question around the heritage aspect, work on designated properties typically requires approval through the Heritage Board. I'll be frank in that I'm not sure, I haven't been involved in this project, so I'm not sure where that sits currently, but we'll certainly take that back and have a discussion with the Heritage team and determine what those next steps look like. And we're happy to report back to the respective committee on it.
Okay. Second question was, no, just the question of the funding. Is that what was your question? Because I can ask. Did you want?
I can't get my, yeah. So just to reiterate, it still says in our report that we are, it's costing double. We are allocating these extra funds from the transfer from our municipal building pool. But then Albert said that we probably won't really get it all done because of the whole elevator thing. So really, we'll probably not have to take it from the 2025, 26 pool of money because we can use money next year in the next year's budget. But are we actually making decisions on next year's budget tonight when we usually go through a budget process? And the second thing is that if the answer is no to that, and we're not doing that, then the question still needs to be answered, like, what are we not doing in this grouping of money that we're able to do the Hertz Hall project? If that's clear.
Councillor Twill, do you want to defer to your engineer?
I'll take a shot at it.
And we have the finance manager here also.
Well, I mean, some questions are raised here tonight about the designation of the property. We had the discussion at Public Works. At no time did anyone raise the concern about this being vetted through the, Heritage Department and then through the Planning and Heritage Committee, or the Heritage Committee, or Heritage Board per se. Are you suggesting a deferral? Deputy Mayor, a deferral on this resolution so that senior staff, our manager of Public Works, our manager of Finance, the director of the Planning Department can roundtable this particular issue and then look at the best path forward. Would we be spending all this money on a building that didn't have the heritage designation? I'm not really sure, but it was pointed out here by the councillor for the ward that, all this work needs to be done. Again, I don't know how the expenditure got to this magnitude, but nonetheless, here it is. So are you suggesting a deferral?
Yeah, so did you move the deferral, or who's moving the deferral?
No, I'll move the deferral.
Okay, and it's seconded by Councillor McCabe. So deferral's on the floor.
Okay.
That's what's on the floor. Councillor McKinnon, I've missed Councillor McKinnon. He did have it, and I bumped you out. Did you want to speak? And then I know that Councillor Duran is waiting online. So it's on the deferral that we're speaking.
So you can't speak to
I wasn't calling to speak on the deferral first, so go ahead.
Okay. Councillor Duran, can you hear me there? Councillor Bob Duran, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Good, go ahead. Now it's on the deferral.
Yeah. I can hear you, Your Worship, but I guess you can't hear me.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
I don't know I'm for the deferral, but I don't know what's wrong with the computer system tonight.
Okay. I have Councillor Mattard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did buzz in prior to the deferral, but I guess my comments would be applicable to support the deferral. There was a lot of questions and debate during the committee meeting that we had in regard to the price tag of $1 million renovation for Phase 2 and the heritage aspect being brought into that. And I just want to support some of the comments here this evening around whether or not the cost of that is associated to some of the factors of it potentially being heritage. And worst case scenario, if that wasn't factored into it, the price tag of that could be actually even quite significantly higher, as we've seen from other debates we've had on the slate roof versus shingle roof. There was a significant difference there. So I think it's applicable that we defer this to get further clarification regarding the heritage aspect and as to whether or not it needs to go down that pathway to determine, in fact, are we in the right ballpark here for this estimate that we're receiving? Because I really can't see us coming back for a third time looking for more money on this particular project. As Councillor Tweel alluded to in our council meeting and here this evening, we could have built a brand new building for probably $1.5 million on that property, given the size of it. And then further to that, I don't think we've addressed the question that was asked by Councillor, our Deputy Mayor Yankoff, was if we decide not to, or if we're budgeted and transferred $500,000, what is actually not being done in our pool of municipal building work that has happened? So it just means that we've done better in that area, or have we decided to actually stop another project? And should we be continuing with that project or those projects? Because it doesn't really, it just says that a budget transfer because we will not be spent in the municipal buildings pool. But what does that actually mean? It's not clear as to whether or not we're stopping something else to focus on this project.
I think what Councillor Tweel said, this will allow some roundtabling, just not on the heritage, but on the funding and so forth. Councillor Bernard,
Thank you.
you've been waiting.
Thank you. Anytime staff comes with a transfer, they don't stop another project. The money is there. They're offering to move that money because that money's not going to get used this year. They don't stop projects. They don't say, let's do that one instead of that one, even though that one's been budgeted. That's number one. Number two, if the deferral is to figure out whether it's a heritage designated building or not, it's not. It was built in 1920 for Lieutenant Governor Frank Hart's example. It's an example of Carpenter Gothic architecture. The current status, the wood-framed community hall located in East Rowley was now part of Charlottetown. While it holds heritage value due to its association with Frank Hart's and its architectural style, it has not been formally designated as a heritage building by the city or the federal government. So this is a hall that's been falling in disrepair since the city took it over in '95. As any property, if you don't want to maintain it, it's going to cost you at the end of the day. So when they moved this building, the intent was to move it off the road and to bring it up to standard. Now, when they moved it, they realized that the building is in pretty poor shape. We know the cost of everything's going up every year, and so if you talk to the manager, this extra money, the $988 to $500,000 in the budget, that's why he's saying if we need to, there's money in the municipal buildings budget to transfer. He also said we don't think we'll have to do that because this work, not all this work is going to get done this year. So at the end of the day, there's $500,000 there. There's extra money in the municipal budget line item that hasn't been sourced yet, and it won't get sourced this year, is my understanding. So I don't think there's a need to hold it up any longer. Sitting out there on St. Peter's Road is an eyesore, and it needs to be completed. And this has been going on for 3 years now.
Okay, Councillor Mattar.
Thank you.
Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you, Councillor Bernard, for, I guess you attempted to answer the question that was asked. However, with all due respect, I guess that would be your opinion that we don't stop projects to start other projects. I haven't heard management answer the question as of yet. So in the absence of them providing that answer, I'll assume that we are stopping something else to get, I asked the question, nobody answered it. The mayor went directly over to you with my question.
Yeah, because
So, and you answered.
on a deferral, this is going to, as Councillor Tweel said, we're going to roundtable this with administration, finance, with public works, and with Michael Russ and his team. So
But I understand that. But
that
as-
discussion will take place
But as
and
a
then come
counselor,
back.
when I ask a question, I expect an answer
Yeah.
back from management or the thing. I appreciate that Councillor Bernard
gave an answer. I'm not taking, he says it never happens here. I don't know that it doesn't happen, that we don't start a project.
I don't know either.
Not do one project to another. We have management sitting right here. Why can't they address the
So
question?
do you want to ask
I'd like
the
the answer to the
finance
question.
chair?
If
Do you
there's
want to
just-
answer?
if there's
No,
a
no.
surplus of
Who do you want to
500,000?
ask the finance chair?
To the chair, can you please address my question as to whether or not there's a surplus of $500,000 that we're just did not spend, or are we stopping other municipal building property work
Councillor Twill.
to address this one? It's a pretty straightforward question.
Councillor
It's either a yes or a no.
It's a good question. As you know, that did not come up during the committee meeting. However, right, it did not come up that we were stopping any other project, not that I can recall. But having said that, the question is now asked. So for specific and accurate account to respond to your question, I will turn that over to the Public Works Manager or the Manager of Finance.
Who wants to take it on? Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Twill. So I'll start. So in discussions with Public Works, we've identified that just from a pure budget management standpoint, there's no funding transfer that has to be done this year because it's indicated that the cash, based on the cash flow, the funding requirements for a portion of the project for this year is 500,000, and that's all that's going to be required, and that's already included in the 25-26 capital budget. So if the tender award is approved, basically the 500,000 remains as is for the current fiscal year. The remaining 488 would be included as part of the budget exercise for 26-27. So the 488 would be noted as being a part of this project, as being part of a tender award. We would identify the total budget envelope for the capital budget, and that at that point in time, Public Works and management will have to go through their list of capital projects once we determine what that funding envelope is, and then identify if there's other cash flows that can be adjusted due to project timelines, or if additional new capital projects that are brought forward will have to be delayed to subsequent years of the 5-year plan. We would go through that deliberation at that point. Council does make decisions throughout the year that has financial implications on future years, and we just have to make sure that we appropriately note it as part of the budget process, and that's included in the budget deliberations in terms of new investments and what the budget requirement is going forward.
So just going on CanadianHistoricPlaces.ca, it does list it on the Canadian Register 2005, Harts Hall. Councillor Twill.
Look, if it was raised here by the Chair of Planning and Heritage that this is a heritage building, the councillor for the ward is saying that it's not designated heritage, even though he gave a citation and a history of the building. So what's council's wishes? Do you want to deal with it now? Or do you call the question? No? Okay, so let's be accurate here. It's not designated as a heritage building. Am I correct or incorrect?
It says right here, listed in the Canadian Register.
No, I'm not talking Canadian, I'm talking
Well,
Charlottetown.
Well, we'll have to find that out. We don't know.
Well,
Not conforming designated as a heritage building by the city or the federal government. A 2023 assessment suggested it was not appropriate for designation.
okay.
Pretty clear.
So, Chair, Planning?
Yeah.
What's your wishes?
Deputy Mayor Yankoff, she's on.
I'll just note that 10 Prince wasn't designated heritage either, and that's right now going through the courts for the last year. So I just think I would think we have to be very careful if people are going to question whether or not something has a heritage. The mayor is saying one thing. I mean, the deferral's on the floor. I plan to support the deferral. That's my second time speaking on it. And yeah, I think we need more information. And I know that we often make budget decisions on things going forward, but this is a big ask, a double the price for us to commit to before we go through budget deliberations for 26, 27, 25, 26, whatever, the next year.
Councillor McCabe called the question before spoken. Question was called. All those in favor of the deferral? Okay, I have Deputy Mayor. Hold on. I know Councillor Drawn has already said it. Councillor Matard. Councillor Twill. Ramsey. Councillor Ramsey. McAleer. McKinnon. And McCabe. Just 1 second, I'm not done with the vote yet. Okay, and Duran. Those opposed to the deferral? Okay, opposed to the deferral, it goes 8-2. So the deferral is carried. Councillor Twill, we're going to move on. Quickly wrap it up.
Well, I'd like to come back with an answer to council within the next 30 days,
Oh, yeah.
right? So we can have a clear direction as to where we're going. So I just want to make that clear. Hopefully, we can get all that information and then know exactly where we're headed.
Thank you. Okay. So, second reading of the, to amend the procedural bylaw. No discussion. On the deferral or on this resolution?
It's just a question, I'm trying to understand committee of the whole a little bit better. If it's just one question.
Yeah, no discussion. You'll have to wait until it goes back to committee and then we'll find out. Okay.
It doesn't impact I'm just trying to understand something for all of us here.
Well, there's no discussion in the second reading.
Okay.
Councillor. Okay. Go ahead.
Your Worship, City of Charlottetown Procedural Bylaw, Amendment Bylaw Number 2018-19-H, amend the City of Charlottetown Procedural Bylaw 2018-19 to clarify the process for a notice of motion, add a committee of the whole, as well as incorporate housekeeping amendments to ensure overall consistency throughout the bylaw, and to further that subsection 14.5 be added under electronic participation in meetings as shown on the attached amending bylaw. Therefore, let it be resolved that the City of Charlottetown procedural bylaw, which was read the first time on August 12th, 2025, be read a second time, and that the said bylaw now be approved and adopted. Moved by Councillor Justin Matart and seconded by Deputy Mayor Alana Yankoff.
Shall it carry? Okay, no. Councillor Drawn, yea or nay? Can you get him on there? Okay. Councillor Drawn? Okay, that's it. I'm going to put it as 9-1. Yeah, there's no discussion on it. I know, we're moving on.
In favor?
You're in favor, okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
In favor?
Councillor Twill, I'm going to adjournment. Did you have something to say about?
Yes, just wanted to, we received a letter. Is this on? We received a letter, envelope, put on our desk here tonight, Mr. Mayor. So, if it's okay, I just want to read it. Just an invitation.
I don't think we
It take me 30 seconds.
CAO, is that?
Just 30
procedure?
seconds.
Just 1 second. I'm just
Right.
asking for procedure.
It's just 30 seconds.
What's that?
I know it's not on the agenda, but it's,
Again, I'm just getting procedure. Just 1 second.
it'll only take me 30 seconds.
Your Worship, it's not on the agenda, and, I think it is a point of order. I don't see an option for it, but it's your discretion.
Okay, so it'll only take me 30 seconds.
No. Council, what's your discretion?
Just Just let me read it.
What's that? Okay, there's no other business. Councillor Twill, I have to move for adjournment.
So I can't read it.
No, because it's not.
Are
Move
we
for
that-
adjournment?
We that stringent? Oh, jeez.
Move for adjournment. All in favor? Thank you.